Welcome back. Welcome back to my shiny red terrain here, which I'm so happy to be looking at again. You have no idea. I just spent the whole day doing optimizations, and I think I finally got it more or less as optimized as I think I can, basically. I mean, just about anything more would just be kind of diminishing returns at this point. But so if you're curious, I did discover a number of things that were helpful. One of which was just kind of remembering how custom meshes are even created in Bevy. So my whole focus most of this time has been on triangles, right? Because that's sort of what you think about when you're doing this marching cubes algorithm, because what it produces is triangles. But actually, that's not even completely true. That's actually not true at all. What it produces is vertices. So the 3 points on a triangle. And then with the vertices, you also get the indices, which are the numbers that tell you which points connect to which points. And the reason that's important is that's a very important distinction, because triangles can share vertices, which, if you can imagine how many vertices are here, I can show you the number in a minute, but most of these triangles that you're looking at in the terrain are directly next to each other, so they are sharing vertices. So before, when I was doing a lot of these calculations, I was doing the calculations for a vertex, let's say for one triangle, and then for the triangle right next to it that has the same, maybe one or two of the same vertices, I was doing the calculation again. So obviously that was some duplication, and I was really confused about how I was going to resolve that. But once I stopped, doing everything with triangles and then just using a list of vertices instead, I'm using I created a vertex buffer. Then suddenly it becomes easier, because now you're just dealing with a list of 3D points, and they shouldn't be duplicated. Now there is some caveat to this, but I'll get to that. There's one last step that I'm going to try to potentially get a little bit more. I really should stop. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous how much I'm optimizing this, but I feel like, I don't know, optimization is kind of, sometimes it feels like a lost art, since computers now are just, we can all just lean on the hardware to do everything faster, and we don't have to write the code as clean, and you see this in practice with so many games now that take minutes to load, and they don't even reach 60 frames per second anymore, and you can just tell that the quality is not important anymore. I don't want that to be the case for my projects, So as long as I can get an actual benefit, like an actual significant benefit from optimizing, then I will try to do it. But then once I reach the point where it's diminishing returns, then I move on. That's kind of what I'm thinking about, how I'm thinking about it right now. So anyways, let's take a look here. Down here you can see kind of, I've also organized the code much more now at this point. So it's easier for me to time specific processes, because they all run sequentially, but each step runs in parallel. Well, not each step, but the big ones, like this first one, which takes the longest, which makes sense because this first one is doing a calculation for every single point in this 3D space given a certain, certain amount of distance between each point. So it's doing a lot of calculations, but it does it in parallel. So it only takes half a second, which is great, but that's how it was before. Then we do some processing the vertex buffers, which we're using now. These I'm doing sequentially because they're I tried doing them in parallel, and it's about the same. They're fast enough that it really doesn't make a difference. And then we do the normals. So this is the one that was taking the longest before. And if I remember right, it was taking about 2 seconds. I can't remember if it was in parallel or not before. Actually, I think when it was in parallel, it was taking around 1 second. And so maybe a little less than 1 second. But now it's less than half a second. So that's really good. And the overall time it takes now is about 1 second. I really wanted to get under 1 second, but I don't know if I'll get there because, I think this terrain, this area is just too big. It's too many chunks. But 1 second, that's great. I think that's pretty good. And I no longer have the number of triangles in here just because now I'm not dealing with triangles anymore. I'm dealing with vertices. So that's why this number is much higher. But it's not 3 times as high. So that's how you know there's not duplication, right? If it was duplication, this would be exactly 3 times as the number of triangles, which, if I remember right, the number of triangles was 217,000. So this is only about double the number of triangles. So that's fantastic. So now the only thing left, there's only one little thing. I'm currently, so the way marching cubes works is each cell in the grid, so not chunk, each chunk has, each chunk is like a 3D grid of cells. Each cell is like a, invisible cube, you can imagine. It can be anywhere between 0, if it's empty space, then it has 0 triangles. If it has, if it's not empty space, then it could have anywhere between 1 and 5 triangles, I believe, or 4. And so these are the triangles that I have sharing their vertices properly. Now, after doing this algorithm, you can see the step here in the logs here, reduced vertex buffers. This is the step where it takes all of the vertices for each cell, and it combines them together into a chunk, essentially. And this is great because the runtime performance, the reason, as we saw before, right, we can't make a separate mesh for each cell because then that would be way too many meshes and the runtime performance would be terrible, which we saw not long ago. But when we do it with chunks, you can see the number of chunks is about 300 and the performance is good. But the problem now is that there is duplication still within the chunks. The cells are all sharing edges, and each edge of each cell has these vertices that are, exactly the same, but they're duplicated because each cell has its own list of vertices. So if I want to get a little bit more optimization out of this, I could try to remove the duplication there. At this point, it is diminishing returns, I think. But, well, maybe not, because there are a lot of cells. There are a lot. I don't know, I think it might be worth it to do that. I don't think it would be that difficult, is the thing, I mean, after reducing the vertex buffer, it should be, it should be pretty easy to just write a deduplication function that that yeah. Well, okay. I mean, I need to stop for today. This is just too much. Maybe tomorrow I will give that a try. I'm just one last optimization. I promise this is the last one, and then I'll be getting back. I have to promise myself. Yeah.